Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, we need to talk about David Lammy. We need to talk about this latest calamity from Calamity Lammy. This is unbelievable. It's can it be? Just over 2 weeks ago, we learned that the Ethiopian paedophile sex offender, a asylum seeker resident at the Epping Bell Hotel, the notorious Bell Hotel in Epping, that's the scene of all those protests from local residents. He's the guy who assaulted 2 women locally, one of them just 14 years old, gets a year in jail, sent to Chelmsford. I think it was 2 Fridays ago we learned that he'd mistakenly been released, despite 5 times trying to get back into jail. They said, get out, go away. I think this is a mistake. Go away, there's the station, go away. Gets to London, goes to a police station and said, I think they let me out accident. Get out of here. So he was free to walk the streets for 3 ridiculous days before finally being reported and scooped up, as it were, and then deported back to Ethiopia, where we can all rest easy that he's a free man, no doubt, sexually harassing poor Ethiopian women. So there you go. So that was then, and you thought, well, God, what a disaster. Well, just unbelievably, shockingly, astonishingly, it's only gone and happened again. They've done it again. This time, an Algerian guy called Ibrahim Kadur Sharif was wrongly freed from Wandsworth prison in South London last Wednesday and remains at large. He was actually in jail for trespass and intent to steal. But he's a convicted sex offender who previously, a year ago, was done for exposing himself. So he's on the sex offenders register. So it's nice to know that he's out there wandering the streets. Just incrediable. And by the way, it turned out today that another guy has also accidentally been released from Wandsworth. This was just on Monday, a guy called Billy Smith. He's a fraudster. So they're letting them out left, right and centre. But another asylum seeker sex offender is out on the streets after mistakenly being released. David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary, was standing in for Tutia Keir today at Prime Minister's Question Time, and his opposite number, again standing in for Kemi Badenoch, was James Cartledge, the Shadow Defence Secretary. James Cartledge asked him 5 times, can you assure us that after the mistaken release of Hadush Kebatu 2 weeks ago, that no other asylum seeker prisoners have been mistakenly released? There followed a scene of high farce, of sick comedy, as this idiot Lammy chose to pretend that he sort of didn't know, but apparently he did know. He thought that the best way to put the government in a good light here was not to, quite straightforwardly say, well, yeah, there has been another really terrible release, which would have been the best thing to do. Instead, we got this. Watch this.
Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
Let me just remind him that he was a justice minister that allowed our prisons to get to this state in the first place.
I'm going to ask him the question again. Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a very specific question for him to answer.
I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system.
Mr. Speaker, he's the Justice Secretary. He's responsible for the justice system. He needs to take responsibility, and I'm asking him a straight question. And I'm going to repeat it once more for the avoidance of doubt, because he didn't answer it twice. He's here to answer questions. Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a clear question. Can he give an answer?
Get a grip, man. I know I'm the Justice Secretary. That's why I'm at the dispatch box, also as Deputy Prime Minister. We know that.
People in Epping and right across the country want to know the answer, Mr. Speaker. So I'm going to ask him again. He's the Justice Secretary. Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? Can he answer the question?
I have answered the question. Under their watch, prisons were in a mess.
I'm putting to him a very clear question about his responsibilities. I repeat, can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? Can he answer the question?
In 25 years in this House, I've not witnessed a more shameful spectacle, frankly, than what the party opposite left in our justice system. Their criminal negligence on his watch as a former Justice Minister.
Can you believe that, Isabel? I mean, I at first thought that Lammy didn't know, that Cartledge knew something he didn't know, but apparently he knew last night. That was his idea of how to keep the government in a good light, by just blustering like a big fat buffoon, which is exactly what he looked like. It was just pathetic, pathetic. I suspect, or I suggest, that the Deputy Prime Minister, the Secretary of State for Justice, looks for a new career. The key phrase in which would be, would you like fries with that? I mean, for God's sake, what was that all about?
Well, those were extraordinary scenes in the Commons today. I was also watching it, and I thought it was clear that the Tories knew something, and they were desperately trying to paint him into a corner. And it was obvious to me by his non-answer of the question that he couldn't possibly give that reassurance, because there was every chance that another one had been let out, and so it proved. You know, I thought he was very brazen. You've been a bit ruder than I will be, but I mean, for him to shout, "Get a grip, man," at the Tory spokesman there, it's very unparliamentary language, if I put it diplomatically. I'm surprised he didn't get told off by the Speaker for that. And, you know, he just decided to kind of fight fire with fire. When the truth was, he was absolutely on the back foot. And you know what I'm thinking as I sit here now? I'm thinking that it is a sorry reflection of the decline in standards in public life that David Lammy is not under pressure, real pressure, to resign over this chaos. Because, you know, I look back to my early years as a political reporter, and ministers had to resign for an awful lot less than the accidental release of criminal asylum seekers and sex offenders into our society. And these days it seems that the threshold for taking accountability and responsibility is ever so much higher than it ever used to be.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, we need to get a grip of this. This is week in, week out. Keir Starmer's a shocker for it. The people at the dispatch box, particularly in PMQs, Prime Minister's Question Time, are asked straight questions and don't answer them. The public are sick and tired of it. That was an egregious display of this syndrome. You know, when he, what was it, the fourth time? I've answered the question. That's exactly, Lammy, what you have not done. And I just think the public deserve better than that shambolic performance. And let's actually talk about the shambles itself. How can this keep happening? I mean, I think we can see, since there was a fraudster accidentally let out on Monday. So this asylum seeker sex offender was let out accidentally last Wednesday. 2 Fridays before that, Hadush Kebatu, the paedophile sex offender asylum seeker, was accidentally let out. And then we discovered that this Monday, just 2 days ago, a fraudster, a guy called Billy, what's his name? Billy Smith, is it? He was let out as well. So I think to be fair, well, that's not really to be fair. As a matter of fact, it's just coincidental that the people that they happen to be letting out happen to be asylum seekers. That puts it in an even worse light. The fact they're sex offenders makes it even worse. But clearly, there's a real problem in our prisons. Prisons are letting out people accidentally at an alarming rate. I believe last year the tally was 266. Well, that's not far off one a day, is it? I mean, it's ridiculous.
I mean, this is actually, I hadn't realised that this was a thing. I mean, I didn't realise that I knew our criminal justice system was utterly dysfunctional, that our prisons were so overflowing, including with a very large number of foreign nationals clogging up places that we clearly need for others. I knew all of those things. I didn't realise that the system was so dysfunctional that we routinely, that the powers that be in prisons routinely just release people who are not supposed to have been let out. It's extraordinary. I'm very glad this has come to light in a way, but I suspect that there are serious questions to answer in a number of agencies as to why this is going on. And ultimately, Lammy needs to take responsibility. It may well be. I'm sure it was also a problem under the last Tory government, but the problem is his now, and just pretending it isn't so isn't going to get him off the hook.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, what goes through Lammy's head that he thinks that the way out of this tricky situation for him and for the government is to sort of somehow bluster his way through and pretend it's not happening? You know, it doesn't behove the government at all well, does it? I mean, this guy, Lammy's not up to the job, is he?
Well, this is just another incident of a very senior Labour politician just refusing to answer questions in a way that, as you said, voters absolutely hate. I mean, we had it so spectacularly yesterday morning when Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, addressed the nation, basically warning us all that we can all expect a clobbering at the next budget, and refused to give a straight answer to a straight question, which is, are you going to put up income tax and break your manifesto pledge? And all she could say was, well, you'll have to wait and see till my budget. Well, why give a speech like that if you're not going to answer a straight question? We all know now, we know enough that when they don't answer the question, we can all put the worst possible interpretation on that omission.
And I just think that the rules of the House should be changed. Old Lindsay Hoyle, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker, is very fond of sort of stepping in and saying, don't be quiet, I'm going to have to expel you. I've got to tell the member one more time to stop making that racket and all this kind of stuff. Fine, keeping order, that's okay. But also, surely he should be empowered to step in and say, Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Lammy, you've been asked a very straight question. I'm going to have to require you to answer it.
It's a really interesting point. I mean, I think there'd be huge resistance.
On the part of these squirming, lying politicians. But never mind them. What about the people? This Parliament is supposed to serve us. I think that Sir Lindsay Hoyle should be empowered in a circumstance like we've just seen to tell Lammy, come on, that's 5 times. It's a very straight question. Yes or no. No more obfuscating. You see what I mean?
I 100% see what you mean. I think it would probably require some kind of hideous legal change in the powers of the Speaker that no MPs are going to vote for. But I agree with you. How nice it would be if there was a kind of adjudicator could say, come on, this is ridiculous. As you and I would say if we were interviewing politicians on talk. We would keep going, wouldn't we? We wouldn't let them get away with it. But anyway, I think everyone's intelligent enough to see what his refusal to give that assurance meant, which was that he basically knew that there had been such cases, or was very likely that there would have been.
Yeah, so it's about all these politicians, the front benches, you know, the Prime Minister and all that. If my proposal was put to them, what you mean? If we're asked a straight question, we have to tell the truth? No, we can't have that. Oh, no, 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 no. That is their ethos, isn't it? It's just a ridiculous thing. They live in a world. God knows what planet they think they're on. Who do they think they're kidding? What is the point? What's the point of that charade? How is the nation served? How are we voters served by that absurd obfuscation by Lammy? How are we served by that? We are being betrayed and let down by this nonsense, and I think you know, it would be nice, I know I'm being idealistic, that if politicians could start being a bit straighter with each other and straighter with us, the people who voted for them in terms of this government, the people who made the massive mistake of voting for them. Let's go to